Hello everybody. I hope you can hear me. I've had a lot of technical problems today and I almost didn't make the live. So, okay, so I see there's a few of you. Hello everybody. There's Manuel, hello. Indrajit. There's a few of you in incognito. So yeah, today I almost didn't make the masterclass. I wasn't even going to play the song because when I came in, wait, you're going to get seasick. All right, it's better like this. So I came in, nothing worked. Everything was overloading on Pro Tools. I'm sorry, I don't know what's up with the camera. There you go. And yeah, so basically I plugged everything in and started playing the guitar, which is something we're going to talk about today, that not every time you're going to get the conditions that you want. But if you're new here, welcome to our weekly live masterclass, that's what we call it. And you know, every week I try to teach you a couple of things that might be helpful to you, either for playing the guitar or like today for performing live. Sometimes we talk about studio stuff, sometimes we talk about performance or composition, you know, and we're here every week, every Saturday at 6:30 Central European Time. If you're living somewhere else in the world, it's 1:30 p.m. in Brazil, of course, and then it's on Sunday at midnight at 12:30 a.m. in Singapore. All right, so every week I give a couple of different cities so we can all be on the same page, but I think otherwise YouTube takes care of it for you, and you know, notifies you as long as you have the bell ringed. So TJ 941, what is that? Oh, that's your time where you are. Tijuana, right? TJ, what's TJ? Could be, right? Because you're 9 hours behind. All right, so if you're new, please do subscribe, like, comment, all the good stuff, but only if you're interested in this stuff. Otherwise, you're free to just hang out, you know, listen to what we do, and that's it. But otherwise, please feel free to join the chat, because we have a lot of regulars and sometimes a lot of new people, and that can be a bit intimidating because we've been doing this for a while now, but you know, they're all very friendly people and they will welcome you. So as I was saying, today I came in, plugged the microphone in, and usually, you know, you don't talk about the stuff that goes wrong. That's one good advice about the stuff we're going to talk about today, about playing live. This is not something you do, right? When something goes wrong live, you don't go out and say it, but today it's good because we're going to use it to learn stuff. So I came in and plugged in the microphone. First of all, the microphone was somewhere else because I was traveling. As you know, last week we did it from another city, so I only had my very basic setup. And the microphone wasn't where it was supposed to be. So I had to leave the studio, go home, get the microphone, come back. That was already 5:15. I plug everything in, like it's always plugged in. I have a template, so everything should be fine. And nothing worked. I was clipping everything. The sound card, I was clipping the OBS audio. So I had to change all the volumes. And at 6:28, I had it figured out. So I warmed up for 2 minutes. And then I went live and played the song. So that's something you have to kind of learn how to deal with. Sometimes that's what happens. And the people that are there to see you, like you today, they don't really care about it. You know, it's not like they don't care, but they don't want to know. They have their own problems. They have their own things they have to worry about. You know, they're there to have a good time and not to listen to you complain about stuff and making excuses. So, you know, the only reason we're talking about it is because maybe it will help you in the future. But yeah, so sometimes it's not as easy and as planned as you would like it to be. And so you kind of have to hang in there and do the best you can, which is the title of a song, actually. All right, so today we're going to talk about some advice on playing live music. So if you guys are in bands, let me know. It'd be very interesting for me to hear if you're in a live band, or if you have a group, or if you go out and play solo. Maybe you play, you know, kind of like with backing tracks. Sometimes, some of you guys I know play in the streets. So usually you will have backing tracks for it. And so let me know how it goes, because I will share a couple of horror stories today, and then I will ask you to share some of yours, okay? And the other thing I won't do today is go into the very basic stuff, like you know, the obvious things. Because like, for example, check your volume on stage so that it's not too loud, or bring a backup amplifier, or don't drink too much or at all before you play. What else? You know, the basic stuff everybody shares, and they think it's such a big deal, but everybody knows that. And the other thing about those things is that even if you don't have a lot of experience playing live, you can still kind of go out there and search for something and say, okay, well, I'll make a video on that. And you don't even need a lot of experience on stage. So today I will try to give you advice that is that I've learned through actually performing on stage. I've been playing since I was 15 on stages, and I made all the mistakes you can imagine. Still make them sometimes, like today, although today was out of my hands, you know. But it's an important thing to keep in mind that take advice from people who actually do the stuff they talk about, right? Because especially nowadays, you can just probably go online and go like, well, I want to make a video on advice playing on stage, so I just watch a few videos on advice on playing on stage, and then I will just rehash that. So it's good if the person giving the advice has experience, because then it can be of some weight, and it can also answer your questions a bit better. All right, so I'm not criticizing anything, but I just don't want to make another video of those basic things. So anyway, if you want to know about any of the more regular stuff, like what volume do I play on stage, and do I bring backup, and do I treat the waiters well, and how to treat your soundman, that's of course very important, but we can maybe discuss it at the end with the question and answer that we always do. All right? So first of all, I'm going to share some horror stories from when I was starting out, and not just when I was starting out. So I put it out there, and if you want to share, then you won't feel as bad, because I've done worse than all of you, I think. All right, so I think the first one I will share is I was probably 16 or 17 at the most, and I had been playing guitar for maybe a year, electric guitar, maybe a year and a half. I was already in a band, you know, and I was used to the band situation when you're at that age. So we were playing the school circuit. We would play all across different schools in Milan, and that was something that was pretty common back then. I'm talking about the very early 90s, well, early 90s, mid 90s, and it was very common. It was common in Italy where I lived. It was common in England. You know, it was very common to have a school circuit, and then you would go from school to school and perform Christmas, and they had any kind of events, and so there would be kind of bands that would do the school circuit. And I was the youngest guy in my band, because I was at the time I was 17 maybe, 16, 17, and I played one show in a band, and then these other people saw me. They were like 20, in their 1920s, maybe early 20s, and they said, do you want to be in our band? And they were kind of famous already in Milan, and the most important thing to me is that they played their own songs. Okay, so that was my biggest draw. I didn't want to play covers. I wanted to play music. You know, I wanted to do my own music. I idolized Queen, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play our own music. And so I joined the band, and this guy comes to my house, the singer, and I talked about this band. It was called Jar. I talked about it before. He comes to my house and gives me a few pieces of paper with the tablature written on regular paper. It was not tab, right? It was just regular paper, but he wrote down the tabs for a few things, for some intros, and then everything else was like B, D, C sharp, you know, the fifth chord. Basically everything was fifth chord. So that was 3 days before we had to play at the Rainbow Club in Milan. The Rainbow Club in Milan was quite well known. It was kind of like, I don't know what to compare it to, because I don't know what city you're in, but it was a pretty big club, and it was kind of iconic. A lot of big bands play there, even if it was a bit smaller, but for prestige, you know, they would play there. And I think Michael Schenker had played there like 2 days before. And so we get there, and I'm 100% innocent of everything. I have no idea what I'm doing. At least I have a guitar. I don't have an amp at the time, even at home, so I would play always without the amp, except at rehearsal. And then, so we do the sound check, and the night before, it coincided that the night before, somebody from school gave me a VHS tape of a Jimi Hendrix show. And you saw Jimi Hendrix come up to the stage, go to his amp, and go like this, blah, blah, you know, put all the volume, all the bass, everything on 10. And so I saw that the guys that did sound for the event, they had a Marshall, and I said, I'm going to use that amp. And at sound check, I went on stage, I plugged in, and I was starting to do that. And he said, "Don't touch the volume." You know, the sound guy said, "No, what are you doing, kid?" You know, he saw this 16-year-old I was, clueless. And he said, don't touch anything, just plug in and play. And I said, yeah, but I want to do what Hendrix did. So anyway, we do the sound check. I get off stage and I'm thinking, who knows how long I will be able to play these kind of places, and so I decided that I would go on stage and do that. So showtime comes. They call us on stage. We go up, the singer does his thing, the bass player plugs in, the drummer sits down, I plug in, I go to my amp, and before the show started, I didn't really remember the songs, so I took all the pieces of paper that I had. I know, this makes me look stupid, but I took all my papers and clipped them to the grill of the Marshall cabinet. Okay, so I clipped them because I thought, I don't even know what I was thinking, because how about the second song, right? I don't know, maybe I thought I would just go and pull one out at a time until the end of the set. So I pinned them to the grill, and I put all the volumes on 10, and you start hearing this like a Star Wars lightsaber. You hear this trembling thing. And I see the guy in the front, the sound man, his eyes are like this, mouth open, and he starts running towards the stage, and the drummer counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and I hit a chord, and it was the most deafening sound I've ever heard. Of course, all my papers go flying, so some of them fall on the floor, a lot of them just fall into the audience. And so the soundman comes in, looks at me like, I'm going to kill you, sets up the amp as he likes it, so, a lot lower. And I'm 2 seconds into the first song, and I'm thinking, okay, I have to play 1 hour, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I have zero idea what I'm doing for the whole set. And so I spent the whole set suffering and pretending that I knew what I was doing, playing wrong chords, and just mainly watching the singer who was playing rhythm guitar, and try to find stuff on the floor that corresponded to the song we were playing. And and so I did the whole show like that. And I assumed, halfway through the show, I assumed that was it. I assumed that I was done and I probably had to look for another band. And then after the show, the singer's like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen anyone do. And so I was forgiven, and I was actually complimented for just being an idiot. And so that sets kind of the tone for the rest of my musical career. And so that's one of them, all right? So, I'm sorry, I haven't been seeing your questions. Solo performer, Manuel, all right. And Indraji used to play gigs as small bars, not anymore, okay. And use a looper pedal, all right. But you play live with the looper? House of Blues, yeah, something like the House of Blues, maybe a bit smaller, but yeah. So that's what I did. And then I have another one, which ties more into the practice thing. And so I was at the final year in high school, which for us is you're 18, more or less, 18, 19, that year. And so I'm sitting at my desk, and a teacher comes in and goes, like, okay, we know some of you guys play, and we're setting up a concert at a theater, an actual real theater, somewhere close by. And if anybody wants, you can sign up and you can play a piece or a song. And out of nowhere, I don't even know why I said it. When I said, I'm going to play Paganini on the electric guitar, right? And that was like, I had a month to prepare it. And I don't know where the Paganini thing came from. I don't know if I was reading an interview with Malmsteen, or if I just was looking at a booklet from one of his CDs, or maybe I had a pretty big classical music collection at home. Maybe that's what I was thinking. I don't know, but I said, I'm going to play Paganini on the guitar because I don't know why, because I thought it was cool. So I sign up, and then I go home, and I don't do anything about it for 2 weeks. And I think that was a bit of overconfidence. And then it's only 2 weeks to go, and I said, well, maybe I should start learning this. So I remember it was Caprice 10, I think, by Paganini. No. What was I playing? Well, something, yeah, I think it was the 10 Caprice. Yes, it was. It was Caprice number 10. And so I figured out that I should practice it. And I had a tablature that I don't know where I found, and I had it. And I started to practice it, and I played it 1,000 times, and I never actually played it well, ever, right? And the day of the show comes, and I go to sound check, and I have my little amp and my electric guitar. Everybody else is with pianos and violins, right? I'm the only idiot who plays electric guitar. And I do sound check, and I set the amp up, and I play the song once and it sucks, terrible. I play it twice and it's terrible. And the third time, by some coincidence, I played it pretty well. I get up and I say, okay, that's it, I'm done, I'm ready, I just came out well. And I kind of forgot that I had played it like 1,000 times before, well, 1,002 times before, and without it sounding good. So I assumed that because it came out once, I was ready to go. So you can imagine how we went. I went out on stage, plugged the guitar in, sat down, and drew a complete blank. I had no idea what I was doing. I just remember the intro. So I played the intro 15 times, I looped it, I improvised something on the open third string because it was in G minor, so I would just beep, doing like a neoclassical thing 3 times. Played for like, I don't know, 25 seconds, and got up, and at least I had a presence of mind of taking a bow and going like this. Yes, you know what you just saw, right? I pretended that everything went well. I got up and I left, and I almost stopped playing the guitar that day. It was the most humiliating thing that ever happened to me. And so, yeah, so that's another horror story. I have a lot of them. I got a lot of them, but I won't share all of them with you. But those 2 are the ones that I learned the most from, basically to prepare. All right, but today we're going to get into a lot more depth than preparing, but I thought it would be fun to share a few horror stories. If you have any, please share them in the chat room or in the comment section if you are from the future. And nobody's safe here. You have to share a horror story, just like I did. All right? So if you write them down, we'll read them throughout the video. All right, so I'm going to share a few things here then that might help you. Now, being serious about this, I actually prepared a little thing to help you. Oh, wait, yeah. See, I had a title for the horror stories, but that's done. So we move on to rehearse until your fingers bleed. Okay, that's a bit of an overstatement, but it is true that you should start by playing songs until you burn out. You know, play songs so often and so many times with your band or even by yourself at home that you burn out. You start playing worse than when you started. That means you are really truly overdoing it. And I found that to be extremely useful, because when you do that, then you come back later and your brain has time to really absorb everything you're giving it. And usually we get worse when we do it too much, because the brain is starting to take notes of everything you're doing wrong. Like, for example, if I play it once and I go, okay, I'm making a lot of mistakes, right? Actual fingering mistakes. I don't know the song. So the brain starts working on that. Then you play it another time and you get distracted. So you say, okay, well, now I have to worry about being distracted. And your brain is thinking about those 2 things. And every time you play and you figure stuff out, your brain keeps working on it until it kind of overloads and you can't do it anymore. Then you can stop, and then you come back later for another session or the day after, and you'll notice a big improvement. And the other thing I do all the time is to take notes after each practice. Yeah, so if I'm rehearsing with the band, or maybe if I'm preparing for the rehearsal for the band, because I hate to just be here for people wasting time. So usually I come pretty prepared to a rehearsal, also to give a good example, right? And I would sit at home and go, okay, well, I'm going to play these 10 songs or 15 songs. So for each one of them, I write down the things that I noticed. And it's incredibly important, because otherwise it kind of gets lost into into everything else. So every song I have like, don't lose it after the second verse, right? Or focus at the end, or the end of the solo, it's always a problem. So, check that. And then it makes me remember all the stuff that comes up continuously. And the other great thing about practicing like that is that every time you write something down, you kind of you force yourself to fix it. And as you fix things, you're building quality, and by building quality, you learn of new things that you should work on, right? So if I fix the big fat stuff, like I don't know the song, right? I don't know the actual notes, I fix that. That frees my brain to think of other more subtle things, like, am I doing too much vibrato all the time? Am I being too aggressive? Am I being too delicate? Because for example, when I play on top of tracks, like here, it's much worse than playing in a band, because with the band I can move the song. Even if we're playing to a click track, sometimes we do live, but it doesn't matter, because if I'm playing, I can feel the rest of the band, responding to it. With tracks, you can't. So when I practice for these things that I play for you, there's always a time when I go overboard. I do it too much. I play too intense. It's too live, and the tracks don't follow you. The tracks are what they are. And when that happens, I notice it. I notice that I'm working too much. I'm trying to squeeze too much out of something that is fixed. And so instead of fighting with it, I go back and I go, okay, well, can I stay within the boundaries that the tracks give me while not being too conservative? Because then you control it too much and it gets, it's kind of like listening to the record, so why do it? So that's a very important thing. And it's only available to you if you take care of the big stuff first. All right, so focusing even, you can say, well, I have to be more focused. That's a hard thing to do. But when you write down, you lose it after the second verse, or after the solo, watch it, because the solo usually is very intense, and then you have to go back to the regular stuff, and you go like, every time you go back, you lose it. It takes you a long time to come down from that high of the solo. And you write it down, and it's a lot easier to remember it and to think that you're actually doing it. Otherwise, it just stays there. And it's like when you record a demo, you have to record it, right? You can't just keep it all in your mind because it never improves. So that's a very important thing. And the other thing that comes with this kind of practice is confidence. And confidence is something that's extremely important when you perform live. It's very, very important. And confidence, you have to gain it, because confidence without the practice is just being stupid, right? People who are confident and they don't know anything, that's not going to help you. But when you do the work, then you will gain confidence, right? If you play a song and 90% of the times or 99% of the time it comes out all right, then you will be confident that most likely you will go out there and play properly. And then you can focus on other things, which we'll talk about. And confidence is important. Just don't be too confident too early, because that's a bit dangerous. And and the other thing is that most people's advice on playing live, like do this, do that, really falls into the rehearsal or the practice or the preparation. Like check your levels, do this, do that. This is all really practice, right? Because you have to keep your ear open. Like if your volume is too hot on stage, you should have noticed that when you were rehearsing too. You should be comfortable with what you. So practice is not only your fingers; it's pretty much everything. The arc of the song we talked about. Be conscious of the whole arc of a song. Maybe you don't burn all your bullets at the beginning. There's so many things. There's so many things. The arc of a whole set. Like how do we start with? Do we start up here with the set, then we go down a little bit, then we go up again? Where's the climax of the concert? Should we keep it at the end? And that's something that is prepared. That's not something you go to on stage and you do it. And so when people give advice on when you play live, do this and that, most things should be done beforehand. All right, so that's the first thing. Rehearse smartly and rehearse while keeping in mind what it is truly important when you perform. And you learn that by doing it. And I can help you a little bit because I have a bit of experience, but otherwise, you play live and you learn what it is that is truly important. The next thing is get through the song. And this is something that I've learned, of course, by doing it and by learning from my mistakes, is that once you're on stage, everything else is behind you. The practice, the work you put in, the work you didn't put in, the doubts you might have about your ability, even about your own songs. Is my music good? Is my music bad? Should I play this song before that one or that one before that one? Even what shape you're in with your fingers, what shape you're in your mind. Are you tired because you didn't sleep? Maybe you're traveling, 500 miles to play a show and you haven't slept. So that's all behind you. That's why it doesn't help you if my advice to you is sleep well before a concert. That's rehearsal, that's preparation, that's practice. But once you get on stage, everything else is behind you. And there will be many things that will conspire against you performing at your best. As a matter of fact, most times you will get off stage thinking that you did not perform at your best. Okay? You don't have to share it with everybody because people will have their own opinion on it. But most times you are dealing with things that are out of your control. And when you get to that point, you think only of the song and you think of what the purpose of what you're doing is. The people who are there for you, the purpose for you is to deliver the song in the best possible way. That's it. Not even the best, but the truest possible way. And there's only the song. And so if you if you really think about it, that's the only thing that is important. So forget about looking too cool, or should you move, should I not move, should I look them in the eye, should I look at the sky and look all, should I twirl my guitar? That is secondary. That's something you can think of later, but truly the main thing is the song. So sometimes it helps to actually think, what am I going to do with this song? So literally you can think, okay, how does the song start? In those 2 seconds of break between a song and the other. And you actually go over it in your mind, which luckily you can work at higher speeds than normal. And you can think about it, that intro. You can think about it. If you're not ready, you can just stop for 5 seconds. Yeah, you can stop for 5 seconds, turn around, put your fingers on the guitar, do that. And basically forget about everything else that it does not deal with you starting the song, performing the song, and finishing the song. And this helps you also when you make mistakes, which are kind of inevitable. I've seen great players make mistakes all the time. I've seen them, and amongst musicians, that's something that's very easily forgiven. But you think that people are there to judge you, and we'll talk about this later. But those mistakes can distract you from your main purpose. And your main purpose, once you've practiced, your main purpose is not to perform without mistakes. Your main purpose is to perform your songs the best possible way, and things will happen. The sound will be shit, whatever. That's not your goal once you hit the stage, all right? And the other good thing is that most people don't care about all the little details. All right, so yeah, I would say this, just focus on the simple stuff, which is start the song, finish the song. And I find that to be the most simple, but the most revolutionary thing for somebody who's so caught up in the small stuff. Just let me play the song, all right? And that helps your concentration, and that comes from practice. But really, truly, just play it, because that's what people want to hear. And after this is kind of in parallel. These things all go together. But to embrace everything, embrace it all, I wrote down there. This will help you with everything that is tangential to playing live. You play live and you'll have bad sound, bad gear, you'll have a noisy stage, you won't be able to hear yourself, you won't be able to hear the drummer, you will have lights in your eyes, or the guy will turn the light off in the middle of a song and you will not be able to see the guitar. Maybe the dressing room is dirty, and all that stuff. There's only 2 things you can do. You can fight it, so you can actually get to the venue and start getting all upset. And that's what I did that for a long time. I would go and go, no, everything has to be perfect, because I practice a lot and I rehearse and I take this extremely seriously, and I want everybody else to take it seriously. And not like they owe me, but they should respect their job. And how hard is it to set up 2 monitors, and how hard is it to have a light that's not right there in my face, and how can it be, and this and that. And that very quickly, like water, just seeps into your psyche and your mind, and you can forget about all the stuff we talked about before, right? Focus on the song, focus on the music, be yourself. It's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult. And so I learned that once I do everything I can, and once I try to prepare, so maybe I try to talk to the venue and say, well, I need this kind of amp, or I would like these monitors, and I would need stereo monitors. Once you get there and there's nothing else you can do, maybe you're in Iron Maiden and you can do whatever you want, but for most people, even quite known bands, they're at the mercy of the situation. I've known a lot of bands who played extremely big festivals, and they have to deal with this all the time. And some of them get really worked up about it. And so they have maybe this big festival that they've been waiting for 20 years to be able to play. They go there, and all they see is the stuff that's not as they imagined the situation would be like. And it goes straight into their performances. And they leave the place and they hated it. They hated the place, they hated their performance, and they hate themselves because they let the situation ruin the performance. And I've done that. I've done that, and I didn't enjoy it. And so I reached the point where I said, you know what, maybe there's another way. And the other way is to just do everything you can first, but then you just accept that the situation will be what it is, and you work within it. And it's not resignation, it's not being resigned to a bad speaker, but it's simply just understanding that this is what you're given, and you will make the most out of it. You can actually even convince yourself that everything is great. I haven't gotten that far, but yeah, that's a good. That's one other way of doing it. You can go like, okay, I'm gonna really think that everything is perfect, even if the lights are terrible and the sound. I haven't gotten that far, but yeah. So anyway, once you accept it, then everything becomes easier. You can go through the song, go to the set, enjoy the music, and really just don't think of what it could be. Don't think, well, it sounded so much better last time, or because it really is not that important. And when you see the audience, you will notice that a lot of people enjoy concerts very much in places that for the musician are not the greatest. But people don't care. People are there to hear you be yourself. And so, yeah, that's another great thing that since I've learned how to do it, it's become invaluable. And so embracing the situation, and actually the other thing is that if you embrace the situation, you allow yourself to go inside the situation and then work within that framework. So the situation is what it is, right? But it's like a bubble. And it's much better if you get inside the bubble and do your best there, instead of staying outside, having to perform inside of it, and fighting, like, imagine this plastic bubble and you're outside trying to fix it and change it, and I'm going to make it bigger on this side and I'm going to make it rounder, and it's not a good way of doing things. And so just get inside the situation, get in it, and you'll be able to control it a lot better and to make the best out of it. All right, so that's another thing that I thought I would share. Some of this stuff is a bit esoteric, but not esoteric, but it's, maybe vague a little bit, but it is actually very useful. The other thing is, and this is quite common advice, is not to sweat the small stuff, because that comes from understanding an audience. And really, we've all been at concerts, and even people like us, we get into, oh, look at my guitar, and what does this pedal do? And I have 5 overdrives, and they're all clones of the Tube Screamer, but listen to this one, it has just a little tiny bit more at 4K, but this other one sounds a bit rounder. All that stays at the door when you play live, especially for the audience, because even us, when we go see a show, we just want to see the show. We don't care about all the details. We don't care about anything. Really, we just want to be entertained, and we go there to see the people who we want to see. And but when we play, we kind of forget about all that, and we think that everybody sitting there is judging us and thinking about what battery we're using in our pedals, and is that guitar from 2006 or is it the original 1970 something? We think that people think that, and they don't, because we don't. But we fall into the trap very often, and that's very distracting. And so, once you're there, again, just work with what you have. Nobody cares what amp you're using. Nobody really cares if it's set at 5 or 4. Nobody really cares about if you're using the black guitar or the white guitar. They might enjoy watching you play a guitar, but really it has nothing to do with the music. The music comes down to the performance. So don't sweat the small stuff. And if it helps you, it does help me. I always have a backup that I trust. I have my big amps, but then I always take my Kemper with sounds from those amps, and I know that if anything happens, and it has, I can plug in the Kemper and I'm comfortable with it. So that helps. But everything else is just small little details that I'm not concerned about, and it's very important. It's extremely important. And I have an example. I was playing as a guest with a band at a big place here in Barcelona, and I don't know what happened to I think it was the bass player or the other guitar player, and I just went on for a song. I brought this little amp, and they were doing soundcheck for like 2 hours, and I was going to tell them, like, this sounds exactly the same as the first 20 minutes. And they got lost into all this stuff, and then they get all nervous because they think that all the stuff is so important, but it's important to them, and you're not there for yourself, you're there for the audience. So think of what's important for the audience. Everything else, leave it behind, leave it in your studio, in your rehearsal space, and then you can deal with it on Monday, right? But yeah, that's another bit of advice that you can use. Don't sweat the small stuff. Oh, hello, Kefkelios. You're late? Yes, it's fine. And Manuel and Indrajit, I'm going to read your comments as soon as I'm done, all right? We'll talk about that. Are you sharing your horror stories? So Kev Kelios and everybody else, I see there's a few people in here. Please feel free to share your worst experience or experiences performing live. I've shared mine, and it will be fun to hear your horror stories from the road. And finally, I have Be Yourself. I know this sounds a bit new agey, but it's truly not. I'm not into that stuff. But it's good news. This Be Yourself thing is good news, because no matter what happens and how shitty the club is and your stage is and how much of an asshole the promoter is, you know, the people who come to see you, they're there to see you. They're not there to see anything else. They can forego everything else. So much so that if you're a big fan of, I don't know, maybe you're a big fan of AC/DC, what would you think of watching a show with 30 people, with a shitty stage, small stage, a few lights, just 2 amps, a microphone, and a drum set? Wouldn't you like it? Wouldn't you even exchange it for that big arena show that you just saw with them? Right? How many of you would say yes to it? I would. You know, I saw the Scorpions played once. I was in San Francisco, and we went to see them with the San Francisco Orchestra. Now, this is another story that has nothing to do, but it's fun to share these stories. If you get bored, as always, please you never do let me know, but as always, I say, please let me know if you're bored, because I don't want to waste your Saturday evenings. But we went to see the Scorpions in San Francisco, and I was a very good friend of mine in San Francisco was one of the biggest rock DJs in San Francisco. And he said, as soon as we're done here, I think it was at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, he said, as soon as we're done here, go to this bar and there will be a surprise. And I said, okay, I don't have a car. I had nothing back then. And he said, okay, don't worry about it. I'll pick you up and we'll go. So I wait outside. He picks me up. We go to this small bar. And the drummer of the Scorpions at the time was playing with his own punk band. But then Klaus, and I was having beers with Klaus and with Matthias Jobs, who was one of my idols. And then Klaus goes on stage and they play Holiday and they play songs just, the stage was like, I don't know, the smallest stage you can imagine. It was like maybe 4 or 5 meters across. No, it wasn't. It was probably 3 meters across. And if I had to pick one show or the other, I would probably pick that one instead of the big one with the orchestra and the symphony at the arena. Because we are there for the artist when we go see somebody play, and we really truly only care about them being themselves. And you can keep that in mind when you play, or you become nervous sometimes before you play, because again, you're getting lost in the details instead of the true important aspects of it, which is that people who are there for you, that's all they want. They want you to be yourself and play what it is that you're playing. And so you don't have to try to be somebody else. You don't have to force something out of a situation that's not what it is. So that's very important. And you don't have to worry about what it is they want to see, what they want me to be like. Like if you go see Kiss, you don't think that 4 guys in their 60s or 70s now wearing high heels and makeup, that you don't think they're stupid. They don't look stupid to you, do they? Because that's who you're going to see. And if on the different day you go to see Barenboim play the Beethoven sonatas and he's sitting down at the piano for 90 minutes, you don't think he's lazy or that he's low energy, do you? You accept that that's what this artist does and that's what that artist does. And if I go see, you go to Madrid and see the work of Velázquez, you don't expect to see Picasso's, right? Or Pollock's. You know what I mean? So that's extremely important. Don't think of you as the guy who plays. Try to look at it from the point of view of the audience, and it will become a lot more low stress, okay? Because you will understand how people see you and what it is they want. They just want you to be yourself, and that helps a lot with everything else. It helps you accept imperfections, and it helps you accept the fact that things are what they are, and the stage is what it is, and the sound is what it is, and so on. So I would say then, after all this, that really all that is down to you, so everything you can actually do yourself, boils down to being prepared. So I would say always rehearse and practice more than you think you should. I always thought when I was growing up that there's going to be 1,000 other guitar players that are, well, 1,000,000 other guitar players that are more talented than I am. And my game was, okay, well, but I will practice twice as much as they do. And that kind of puts your mind at ease sometimes, because you can say, okay, well, no matter what happens, this is truly the best possible thing today, and that's what you do. And you will hit your hand on the wall a few times. I have, and even if you're experienced, you will, things will happen. And the other thing is, don't expect perfection every time you play, because sometimes you feel like you play perfectly, and then everybody's like, okay, yeah, that was good. And sometimes you feel like, man, I was holding back, or I was tense, or I couldn't get into the song, and people will stop you afterwards and say, this was the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and I've never seen anybody play like this, and you really got to me. And so, it's all truly in the audience. As long as you play well, you play within your range of quality, then you're fine. Like I can say today, because we're here, I wouldn't say it otherwise. I will let you make up your mind. But today's song, it was stiff. I couldn't warm up. I still had all the connections in my mind. I had to watch the screen, and maybe some of you thought it was good. But it doesn't concern you. You have to do what you do, leave it out there. People decide, and move on and do more songs and more shows and more concerts. All right, so that's my advice for you. And as you can see, it's not the usual stuff, and so maybe it's a bit out there, but hopefully it's not too strange and you can relate to it. And so I'm gonna read your comments now. The most crowd I play to don't want to hear original stuff and instrumental. Now it's just me confined in my bedroom, improvising and practicing. Not many players who play Western music and my proficiency. That's good. Not bragging, but I hardly connect with the players here. All right. So yeah, well, you do have a platform, right? Because that's a good thing with the internet. But yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, finding an audience for instrumental music and original music is a bit hard. The thing that helps is if you have your style, and truly you are if you are kind of true to your style and yourself, you will be the only one who does that. And so there's always an audience for pretty much everything. And yeah, so maybe one day you will play something live for us, and then you'll get all stressed out, and we can relax and sit down and watch you, right, Indrajit? Maybe soon on your channel, you can do a live concert for us. Manuel says, check your instrument. I had a flute recital and was prepared. Everything was fine until I hit the low register. I played, but left out the low notes. You found a $20 bill in the foot joint. Had I warmed up, that might not have happened. Yeah, I guess not. So I want to know, what was the 20 bucks doing in the joint? Let me know. And Kevkelios, hello. Is that normal that I play a lick and get slip? What does that mean? Please try to rephrase that, Kevkelios, so I can help you. You would have fainted in excitement? Oh, with the scorpions thing? Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to, I have a lot of stories like that. I played pinball with Lemmy. That's kind of cool. And Manuel says, my vocals suck. That's why I play guitar and other instruments. Yeah, that's what I do. I wanted to be Freddie Mercury. And then I said, okay, everybody's telling me not to do that. All my friends, everybody was saying, stop singing. Just play the guitar because you do that very well. So stop singing. And eventually I listened. It took me a while though. I was like, no, I'm going to sing and you're going to listen to me. And then eventually I listened to them and stopped singing. Rajeeve, hello there. He says, I had to act as if I was playing Hawaiian guitar while the accordion player played all my parts. Oh, so you were pretending? That's good. That's easy. And the 20 was for my teacher. Oh, I see what you mean. All right, so you couldn't even keep the 20 bucks. It was a disaster on all fronts. Yeah. Huh. So yeah, that sounds. So did you have a lot of low notes that you were supposed to play? Sometimes it happens. And you know what? Sometimes depending on what you play, like if you play live, like like sometimes you hit a note and there's technical things that the note doesn't ring out. Like maybe the wah pedal is in a position that doesn't coincide with the note you're playing, right? Sometimes it happens. Like there's a spot on the wah where the filter, you're notching a sound that coincides with the note you're playing. Sometimes it happens, and you might lose that note. And if you play live and there's a bunch of noise and there's the drums and nobody noticed that, you know, people notice when you really screw up a note. Like when I saw Brian May once with Queen, well, not with Freddie unfortunately, but I saw him solo, I think, and then with the band. But when I saw him, you know, he started this very beautiful solo and it's completely out of tune. Not the guitar, he was on a different fret, and it was heartbreaking, right? Because I knew what he was thinking. You know, he's like, fuck, I know he was thinking that. And then the worst thing you can do when that happens is you start searching for the note, right? It's better to stop playing for a second and find your place, but you want to keep playing. So he's standing there in front of thousands of people, and he's just bloop, 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 bloop. It's like sliding up and down, just trying to find his place. And so you hear that a lot more than when, like if you had a problem and the guitar stops sounding, that's fine, right? It happened to you sometimes. You go see a show and you go, something's missing, and you see the guitar player just fumbling around trying to fix his cable or his pedals, but it takes you a while to hear that he's not there. But when somebody hits a wrong note, right, that's something that's really obvious. And when I play it for you guys, it's like the worst thing because the tracks are stiff. You know, they're pre-recorded, so they're pre-recorded and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't push the song, you can't slow it down, so you're confined to those parameters. And at the same time, you guys hear everything, right? Because it's kind of like you're listening to a record, because everything I play goes straight to the sound card, and from the sound card it comes to you. So I think this is a lot worse than performing live, because it's kind of like if you're playing in a studio and they go like, okay, we're gonna track one take, and that is it. And like literally one take, and you have to play it perfect because everything will be heard. Like if you go see a band, you might think everything is perfect, but if you record it, you'll start spotting things because people are concerned about the experience. You know, they want you to experience the song, so that means maybe we are pushing a little harder, maybe we are digging into the strings a lot more, and that opens it up for issues. But when you play in a situation like Manuel and dead silence, and you play something, and that's terrible. And that's kind of what happened to me when I was in the theater playing this Paganini thing, and I could only remember like 5 notes. But yeah. So luckily not too many low notes. Yeah. And you can see it in people's face, right? You can see that you can see they know something is wrong and they don't know what to do about it. They go like, is that normal? Like, is it supposed to be silence here? Shouldn't there be low notes somewhere? My music teacher taught me, if in doubt, leave it out, which is really what saved the performance. It's true. It's true, but it's so hard to do. It's very hard to do, especially when you land on a different note. And sometimes it happens with lighting. You don't see the fretboard really well, and you hit the wrong note, and you're so tempted to go, let me find it. And it is true, it's better to stop for a second and come in later. The thing that pisses me off is like I want the audience to experience the whole song, and every time something happens, like even the guitar stops sounding for some reason, I feel bad that I didn't provide the whole experience. And so that's why I think we try to save it any way we can, and we make it worse. So Manuel, your teacher was right. When in doubt, leave it out. It's extremely true. Unless you're playing jazz, then if in doubt, just play whatever you want. And Rajeeve, so you say, oh, the cables failed. Okay, so that's okay. Nobody's scared of that. People are not scared of their cables breaking down, because then they say, well, it's a cable. It wasn't my fault. I think we're all afraid of just doing something terrible, or sometimes going to the verse when the chorus is coming up, or you were supposed to play the solo and instead you go to the verse. But yeah. So, I don't want to say that this should be normal though, because that would give you a very bad, it's setting a bad example. So sometimes it can happen, right? during a show you can have a couple of mistakes, but if you're screwing up left and right, then go back to point one, right? And this one, rehearse until your fingers bleed. All right. All right. Do you have any questions about anything that I don't know if I can? This is more experiences than questions really, because it's so much out of our control. But let me know if there's anything I can help you with, or do share more stories. This is fun. How long have we been going? About an hour? Yeah, we could stay maybe a couple more minutes. I have lights off here. When you play, yeah, who was it I saw? I saw somebody, a very good guitar player, famous, I mean, a very well-known one. And he comes out and there's like smoke and no lights. Like full of smoke and not a single light on him. And so I said, it's impossible for him to, and oh, I see what you mean, Kefkelius. Electricity shuts. All right. But you can still watch us? That's great. Maybe you're on your phone. But yeah, the lights. But when you thinking about the lights on stage, people sometimes don't know how much they can screw you up. When that searchlight, they go somewhere else, and you're like, okay, I have no idea where I am. When did your teacher say you're ready for stage? At what age? First stage show? No, I didn't have a teacher. Never had a teacher. And nobody ever told me that I was ready for the stage. That's why I did all this shitty stuff that I talked about before. I was thrown on a stage basically 6 months after buying the first electric guitar. And at that first show, the band that I told you about said, I got off stage and they're like, well, your band is crap. Do you want to be in a real band? And I said, yes. And I joined them and we started playing the circuit. So we played some very bad and shady places, but also some very cool ones and big stages with a lot of people and great gear, which nobody had gear back then, at least where I came from. It was like nobody had this stuff, and nowadays everybody has an amp and it's easy. Back then really wasn't normal. I had a very small bad Washburn amp, and then everything else was done at rehearsal, which also has shitty amps. Or you just went to play live and that was it. Now we get so worried about the details, but it wasn't on the radar at all back then. And so I was thrown on a stage at 16 maybe the first time. Maybe before that, I think 15. And then at 16 I already started playing with serious in serious situations. And at 17 I was already in studios, and back then, because of non-existent budgets, people would pay for the recording sometimes, and they would loan them the masters, and our studios would be the experience would be like this. You would go to the studio and you had 1 hour and you had to play the song top to bottom perfect. And I was at the time 16, or maybe just turned 17. I think I was 16. And that's it. You go to the studio and you play the whole song once, and you play it perfect. If not, you can take maybe 2 or 3 takes, and then the time is up because they have to mix it. And you learn. You sink or you swim or you sink. That's and I think that's great practice. And it's so different than today with the internet and people being able to. And I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing. It's just a different experience, and I'm not interested in it. That's why I'm not against it. But the experience of controlling everything, of being able to control what people think, what people see of you. So maybe they should have this image of me and that. I only want them to see me play like this and like that, and only perfect. And there was none of that back then. Back then you plugged in and you played. And if you didn't know how to play, you learned quickly, or you would be, they would call somebody else. And I think that was my biggest, most useful experiences, because it's something that's so hard to teach today. I do have a school, and you tell people you have to just sit down and play for me. right? If you want to be a musician, you have to do that. You have to play. There's no controlling everything. There's no 20 takes, and there's no slicing and pasting. You know, that's being a technician, but it's not being a musician. And so, yeah. And that's my advice. And my advice for everybody else, if you're at this stage, is that you go out and you play live now that nobody knows you. You know, it's the best experience. You go to a bad place, a bad bar, or an empty one, and you play, do jam sessions. Just be on stage as much as you can. Don't worry about it. It will be terrible in the beginning. You go home, think about what went wrong, and work on it. Then do it again and again and again, and you'll get a lot better in no time, and you'll actually enjoy it, because playing live should be should be something you enjoy, not a suffering situation. Hello, Manuel. I want to share my experiences. Nobody have a vocal sucks, but just need to control it. Could you play fingerstyle? Me? Not really. I'm not really good at that. I play a little bit of classical, but not very well. Sorry, my English is not my primary language. That's fine. You're doing good. Just sometimes it's hard to, but if it is hard for me, I will just say it, and everybody else too. Manuel says, tell us your story. In my opinion, about music is not thinking about people what to say, but just you do what's your own. That is true. That's exactly what you have to do. Do what it is you want to do, and because what else can you do, right? There's really nothing else you can do. And people only care about you doing what it is you want to do. Like if a band comes up with an album I don't like because they try something different, that's fine by me. I don't have to like everything they make, but I prefer to see them go where they want to go, and I will decide if I like it or not. That's totally true. Yep. All right, so I'll wait for a couple of minutes. If you have any more discussion, please feel free. I'm not in a big hurry, but if you have any ideas for some future videos, I'm thinking about maybe alternating between teaching stuff on these videos and sometimes just to talk with you guys and do some Q&A. And yeah, something like that. That might be helpful because... All right, so there's a few questions. What was the best compliment and the worst criticism you got? That is a very good question. The best compliment is when people I truly respect enjoy my music, and or are complimentary about my music, and when I know that it's not just being nice. Okay, so, and truly I don't really care too much. I mean, I do, it's weird, but I do care about it. I do care about it, or let's say that I appreciate very much when people like my music and when people have great things to say about it, and when you guys listen to my songs and you're here, and it truly does. I appreciate it, but I don't let it become a condition. You see what I mean? And so even if it's somebody like Ronnie Dio who told me, was very complimentary about my playing because he heard some stuff, or my very good friend Eric Adams, who says, oh, you're one of my best guitar players I know, and I've heard that from a lot of people, and I've been able to work with some incredibly talented people, and usually that's a sign of approval, right? That you work with them. But I appreciate it, but I don't really I try not to care too much about it. It's hard to explain, I hope you understand that it's it's important at an emotional level, but I don't let it be important as far as making decisions, if you know what I mean. And the worst criticism, I can't think of any, not because I haven't gotten any. Actually, I've been extremely lucky. I never had a bad review or anything, but it's just something that doesn't really concern me, right? Because if it's criticism by somebody you respect, then it's not criticism. It's kind of like advice. And I've had that, collaborating with some people that I truly respected, and they go like, well, maybe this is not working too well. And that's fine. That's 100% fine. So as far as somebody saying you suck, it hasn't happened truly like that. But it has happened. People go like, well, I think Andre is like blah, blah, blah all the time. And I don't agree with it. I don't think my music is shredding all the time. As a matter of fact, most of it is not. But, you know, it's not like I'm going to sit down and go like, well, now I'm going to stop. Like, okay, well, here's one. I had a review for my latest record, Mystic Electric, which says, you know, incredible guitar playing. It's masterful guitars and melodies, and the solos are out of this world. But they had a problem with there's a lot of electronic drums or drum machines on this record, on Mystic Electric. And I decided when I started the record that I was going to do that. And I could have gone to a studio and made recorded drums, but I decided early on that I was going to do electronic drums. And this review had that to say, it was a criticism. But to me, I respect the criticism because that's, you know, everybody thinks what they want, but it doesn't really make me think maybe I should have done that, because once I commit to something that I'm going to do, I do it. I have no interest in knowing other people's point of view on that, because then you start second guessing everything. You know, maybe I should I play more shredding things, because people, that's what they will share on Instagram, because if I don't play shred all the time, you know, no, because I'm concerned not about the 30 seconds on Instagram. I'm concerned about a whole album that lasts for an hour, and I want to be able to enjoy the album myself and to play it, and I like to write melodic and song-like music. And so criticism is not really a big concern to me. Now, if everybody said that I sucked, then I would probably take it to heart a bit more, but I don't think you should. You know, I think if you're confident and you work hard, as long as you work very hard, then you should probably be okay and be able to navigate criticism. So I can tell you of the worst criticism I got. Do you ever feel depressed about my career? No, not depressed. You know, when you're maybe in your 20s, you're so concerned about where is it going to go, what am I going to achieve, what am I not going to achieve. But really, to me, nowadays, being able to make all the records I'm making, being able to put together the studio, being able to play live somewhere where people just come and see me perform my music, being here with you guys, just you know, trying to revive this channel. I know that some of my videos, nobody watches them, and the ones that have 100,000 views, I'm like, why? Where there's, you know, one of the Parker videos I made for Parker Guitars has, I think maybe, I don't know, 90, 100,000, and I did it in 2 hours. It was just a song I just improvised for 2 hours, you know, and I go, okay, recorded 5 minutes of it and then put it up, and everybody's like, wow, this is great. And I think it sold so many Parker guitars. And then I put up a video of In Dreams, and it has 5,000 views, and I'm like, well, In Dreams is like 1,000 light years beyond that Parker song. But, you know, I don't worry about it. And to me, I think it could have gone a lot worse. And at the same time, I think it could be a lot better. And, you know, you kind of navigate that. But one thing I have clear in my mind that helps is that I do the music I want to make, and that's it. And so to me, that is more important. Of course, I would enjoy a lot to have a lot more people listening, and why not? You know, of course. And I think there's also a problem now with reaching people. Like on YouTube, for example, the videos have like 99% likes, right? But so I kind of think that the people who watch them like them, right? Because otherwise they would be, and the ratio of views to likes is also very high. So a lot of people feel compelled to go, I like that. But few people reach, you know, the videos reach few people. And I'm sure a lot of it is my fault, but really, truly, I don't think it has a lot to do with the quality of my music or of the content. I think it's just the way you know how to navigate the algorithms and stuff like that. So I don't let it get to me too much, but you know, I always try to make the best out of situations. So I do try to get this thing going, and I'm still here, you know. It takes a lot of work sometimes to prepare this thing and to be here on Saturdays and to rehearse the songs, and it's stressful, you know, to go, okay, hit play and I have to play the song, and it puts me into a situation where sometimes I think, why am I doing this? Why am I suffering sitting there with, you know, playing Funky Robots for the first time in my life? I never played it live. Why am I doing this, you know? But because you do what you do, because I feel like doing it. So I don't feel depressed, no, not at all. I feel quite happy and grateful. John Frusciante has talked about making music without an audience, meaning without the intention to release it. Yeah, that is a good point, for the sake of it, yes. Not much, but you think people will think of it. The music from his solo career is very experimental. Yeah, some of the electronic stuff, yeah. I really like John Frusciante, yeah. Never really liked metal style until I started listening to your music. Okay, thanks. You still watch the videos, great, thank you. Okay, thank you so much for your answer. All right, cool, thank you for your question. Agree, not letting bother praise criticism for a long time and improve. I was asking about any one instance. Well, probably when I was very young, but you know, at the time when I was 15 or so. And, but you know, I think I was very confident, and so I never cared. I did get criticism when I was starting out. I was in high school, and I was starting to play, and I think people was, now I don't want to sound like a, you know, but I played very well for my level. Like I had a guitar for a year, and I played a lot. I played very well because I played many hours. And people were like talking behind my back, other people who had who play guitar. But I think my ego was so big then, still, you know, even back then, that it never really got to me. I think I'm kind of immune to it, unless somebody I truly respect would say, well, the music sucks. But then they probably wouldn't. You know, they would probably say, I don't like this record, that's fine. But really, something that's what sticks or what sticks to me is when I fail to perform as I want to perform. Then it stings. You know, what people think is not my job. Truly, is not. It's not my concern what people think. But not doing things right, then it does get to me. So if I do something, I perform badly, or you know whatever it is, then it does bug me. Yeah, but it's not somebody from on the outside. It's truly when I end up criticizing my work, then you know then it sticks. Yeah. We need Tonelli merch, really? I've been thinking about it, but. Yeah, I'm trying to think, you know, nobody wants my face on their shirt, but maybe something, I don't know, I've been thinking about that. Maybe some artwork, or I am thinking about it in Rajeeve. And people want versions, I assume you mean covers, they want covers of popular music. Yeah, which is fine, there's a market for that, but it's not really my thing. I would probably do something else. If I were to play music, the amount of hours that I play just to play somebody else's music, I probably would paint or do other stuff, not music. To me, music is only truly making art in a way, you know, make my own music. Yeah, all right, there's some great questions, and we've been going for a while. So if you have ideas for next, for the next videos, let me know. Again, I'm trying to put the Inside the Song videos back on track. But eventually that series will end. I'm thinking maybe a few more videos, and then that will end, and we'll keep the live streams going. So thank you very much for being here. I will wait a minute to see if there's any more questions. Otherwise, you're always free to ask them in the comments, or next week we'll always have time for Q&A. Maybe next week we'll do another Q&A, which you seem to enjoy, and I enjoy that. Thanks for being here and sharing. Yeah, you too. Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening to music, for playing music, write music, you know, do everything you can to add to the music world. And thank you for your support. It's very, you know who you are. Those of you who support the channel, it's very much appreciated. And it's just nice to know that it's important to you. Thanks for a great answer. All right. Well, thanks for a great question. And don't worry about your English. It's great. And we always work it out, so don't worry about it. And if there's anything you don't understand when I speak, because I speak quite fast, so if it's sometimes it gets hard to understand, please feel free to ask, and we'll make sure you get everything you need out of these videos. Would like to take an Indian raga as a bass line. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, you know, I love Indian music. I do. I even studied sitar in India with a guru, so I truly enjoy Indian music. I have a big discography, and and I know a lot of the scales and a lot of the rhythms. So yeah, you guys have an incredible tradition of music, and people sometimes forget. They think the European tradition of classical music, that's the best thing in the world, but truly Indian music is one of the most incredible legacies. So you should be proud of that, and share it with the world. Indrajit, Circle of Fifths, maybe? Okay, Circle of Fifths could be good. Yeah, I made maybe one video or two about it in the encyclopedia, but we can do one more. Yeah, but maybe I'll do that. I just have to prepare the little graphs, and I'll see if I have time this week. Maybe we'll do it next week. All right. Well, everybody, thank you again. Thanks for being here, and I'll try to prepare a song, and I'll try to warm up next time and play it for you, and see you on the next one. All right, I'll see you next Saturday, 6:30. Bye-bye. Thanks again for being here.